Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin, I would like to ask you to have a moment of silence to remember all the loved ones who died on September 11th. Welcome to tonight's Board of Appeals hearing. Let me introduce some members of town government that act as advisors to this board. To my left is Paul Hennings, counsel to the board. To his left is David Flynn, assistant planning director. To his left is Tom O'Brien, a planner in the planning department. To his left is John Bongino, town building director. Now let me tell you why you're here tonight. New York State statute requires that any town that adopts zoning must also have a Board of Appeals to act as a relief valve so that those persons aggrieved by strict application of the zoning ordinance can seek relief without the expense of going to court. Town board can give Board of Appeals additional powers such as special exception approvals, site plan approvals. In Smithtown, the town board has given this board authority regarding certificate of existing use and some special exception uses. The most common kind of application before us are area variances. Area variances deal with dimensions such as lot area, frontage, height, setback, and parking spaces. New York State statute mandates that the board must consider the following criteria in area variances. When you come to the podium to present your application, you need to address these areas. They are posted here for you. Number one, whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties will be created. Number two, whether the applicant has feasible alternatives. Number three, whether the variance is substantial. Number four, whether an adverse impact will be created. And number five, whether the alleged difficulty is self-created. The statute requires the board to balance the interests of the applicant and those of the neighborhood and community. This statute further requires that the board shall grant the minimum variance it shall deem necessary and adequate, and at the same time preserve and protect the character of the neighborhood and the health, safety, and welfare of the community. The board has the power to impose reasonable conditions for granting variances. Special exception applications are different than area variances. When we have a special exception application before us, I'll explain the different criteria for each. Regarding procedure, cases will be called in order that they are advertised. When your case is called, please come forward, submit your affidavits and mailing receipts to Mr. O'Brien. And then you will be sworn in at the podium and given the opportunity to explain to the board why you need the variance. After the applicant is done speaking, all interested parties will be given one opportunity and only one opportunity to be heard. Please organize your thoughts. Keep your remarks factual that are related to the case. And then I will ask the applicant to come back to the podium and answer your concerns. The board will then close the case and reserve decision. After all the hearings are closed, the board will review the cases and decide some of them. Others will be reviewed at a later date. There are three ways to find the results of the case. Number one, you could wait until after the public hearing, but there's no guarantee the board will act on your case tonight. Number two, you can call the planning department tomorrow afternoon. On three, the applicants can wait and be notified by mail. We do have two adjournments. Case 16767, Hess Corporation, is adjourned to October 9th. Was there anyone here for that? Okay. The next case adjourned is case 16770, Kelly D'Amato, 3 Friedman Avenue. That's been adjourned to October 9th. I see that we have some people here from Sonic. You are the neighbors. You're very welcome to stay, but there will be no decision tonight. Okay, thank you so much. First case tonight is case 16760, SCC Realty LLC, Smithtown Toyota, 360 East Jericho Turnpike, Smithtown location. northeast corner of Middle Country Road and Franklin Drive, Smithtown. Property zone WSI. Variance to increase the maximum area of ground sign existing from 40 square feet to 90 square feet.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, members of the board. My name is Vincent Tremarco. I represent the applicant. You have before you measurements and pictures of the sign. The interesting part about this situation is we have 3 signs, Toyota signs, across the street and next door to this particular one, of which you've all granted variances in the past. My clients applied for a permit, I guess about 7 years ago, 6 years ago, and apparently this slipped through the cracks. They never required us to get a variance. Lorenzo from the building department came over one day and said, you know, you need a variance, just like the variances the board granted you on the other properties that Toyota owns. So we're asking this board to give us this variance tonight. It's similar to the variances that you gave us in the past for Toyota. As you know, the problem we have with our sign ordinance is it counts all the blank part of the sign as well as the words on the sign.
Yes, I know.
And in any event, we feel that this would not create an undesirable situation to the character of the area. The character of the area is not only Toyota, but many other car dealerships which have similar type signs. Whether the benefit sought could be achieved by some other method, really not in this case. This is the sign that's required by Toyota International, and you've granted those variances for Toyota in the past. Whether the requested area variance is substantial, it's not, given the fact that you've granted many variances like this for car dealers, not just Toyota, but Mercedes and a whole bunch of others. Whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood. Well, the neighborhood is car dealers, car repair shops, et cetera. So it has no environmental effect, and in fact, this is Car Dealer Row, so we don't think it'll have any kind of environmental effect or an effect on the neighborhood in any way. Whether the alleged difficulty was self-created, no, it wasn't. We did apply for a permit, and somehow it fell through the cracks, and that's why we're here tonight, 7 years later.
Sorry. Okay. Planning? Gentlemen.
No.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Come up, please. May I have your name, please?
Sonia Skakoza,
Spell your last name
Scocozza,
and your address, please.
7 Franklin Drive,
7 what?
7 Franklin Drive.
Okay. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay. Right?
They didn't build that lot when we first moved into the house, and now we constantly look at this lot. They have car carriers driving up and down the block.
That's not what's before us.
Okay, I realize that.
The only thing is before us is the sign.
Okay. I feel that people would see Toyota and the dealership, which is huge. I don't know why they need a bigger sign if they didn't have the employees parking in the street blocking their signs. They have designated employee and customer parking, but yet employees have to park in their street and on our streets, which is unfair. So people would see their signs bigger. I don't know why they need a big sign when they're a huge dealership. Everybody knows where they are.
Well, do you realize that the sign that's there is exactly the same sign that's going to stay there?
Okay.
They're not making it any
Are they
bigger.
going to build another sign
No.
where the new dealership is?
No, not, the only thing that's before us is that one sign. Do we have it here? That one sign that's there.
Okay,
It's the same exact sign that's been there for, Mr. Tramarko said, 7 years. They just didn't realize they needed a variance, and that's what it's going to be.
okay,
All right?
yep.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if she has problems with the parking or traffic, she should really address the town board.
Okay. Yeah, we're not in charge of that. All right? Town board or
Town board.
town board? Thank you, Mr. Flynn. May I have your name, please?
Pepina Turk,
Spell your last name
Turck,
and your address.
5 Franklin Drive in Smithtown.
Okay. Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. You realize this is just for the sign?
This is just for the sign that says increase it from 40 square feet to 90 square feet
This is the
in the
sign.
posting.
Yeah, this is the sign. What happens with our sign ordinance, they have to measure everything, not just the printed part, but all of this has to be measured as
Okay.
far as the square footage. So it's the same exact sign that's been there. They're not making it any bigger.
Except they're going to increase the word.
No, they're not.
So the sign's been there for 7 years, but not legal? Is that what you're saying?
Well, they did apply for a permit. I don't know what happened.
Well,
They did-
apparently 7 years ago, when we all came in a body and said that we were against this for the various million reasons, apparently maybe they saw fit not to grant them the variance for this sign.
I don't know.
But just to make the record clear, there's a whole community on Franklin Drive, Howell Drive, and all the way through. We're not the dealership row that Mr. Tramarko refers to.
Okay.
There's a
Thank you.
community of people.
Thank you so much. Anyone else? May I have your name, please?
Mary Beth Siskind, 21 Franklin Drive.
All right, spell your last name.
Siskind.
Okay, raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. Okay, I know I need to go to the town board, but I just have to back up what Sonia has said. We're having problems with the trailer, empty trailers coming through.
All right. This is not for this board. We don't have any authority. Mr. Flynn has told you if you have a problem with that, you really need to address the town board with that because we do not have the authority. The only thing we have the authority for right now is the sign.
Okay,
All right.
I understand that, but I'm just pointing out that Toyota does not exactly help us in our neighborhood to feel
No.
that we're paid attention to, because I have talked to the owner
Okay.
about the trailers.
But the best thing to do is to address, make it the town board aware of it.
Okay,
Okay?
I
Thank
will.
you so much.
All right, you're welcome.
Anyone else? Mr. Tramarko?
The only thing that I'd like to address was the second lady that came up and indicated that they were all here, I guess, 7 years ago. I think she was saying, complaining about the sign. That couldn't be because we never made an application. We
Right.
got a permit for the sign, and then it was by, I guess, mistake of the town, mistake by us, that the town come along and said, rectify it, and that's what we're doing.
Okay, thank you so much. I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second?
It's readily moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. The next case is case 16761, Thomas Catalano, 92 Hilltop Drive, Smithtown. Location, west side of Hilltop Drive, north of Dilmont Drive, Smithtown. Property zone R21. Request variance to reduce the distance from any lot line from 8 feet to 2 for an existing 392 square foot garage. Reduce the distance from any lot line from 1 to 0 for existing paving. Permit structural members of an existing 6-foot fence to face outward. Your name, please,
Good evening. My name is Thomas Catalano.
and your address, Thomas?
My address is 958 Hawkins Avenue, Lake Grove.
Okay. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
All right. Would you like this gentleman to speak for you?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chairwoman, members of the board. My name is Doug Hines, Design Development Group, Stony Brook, New York, in support of the application. I'd like to hand up a series of photographs of the accessory structure, which is the subject of the request for relief from the 8-foot setback requirement.
Oh, I didn't swear you in. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Yeah, of course.
With respect to the neighbor
Same
to
thing,
our
yeah.
rear, which is the west side of the property, we maintain more than the required 8 feet. With respect to our neighbor on the north side, although the setback is only 2 feet, it is a considerable distance from this accessory structure, which is in the nature of a garage in appearance, but actually serves as a shed. There is no driveway access to it. In fact, smack dab in the middle of what would be the driveway access to this structure is a utility pole that's been there since the neighborhood was developed. We are a good 110 feet from our neighbor to the north. And that's the neighbor where we put up the fence with the structural members facing outwards. At the time, after the Catalanos purchased the property in 1973, they erected that fence when the neighbor's property had a fence facing their property with the structural members in our direction. So the late Mr. Catalano decided to put up a fence that corrected that imbalance. And subsequent, there have been 5 transfers of that property next door. Subsequent owners took their fence down, leaving us out of compliance with the statute. Because of the screening in that area, the screening in the rear, we don't think that there's a great impact on adjacent properties or a substantial one. We would admit that the shed's encroachment is not minimal, but the 6 feet difference we do not think would make a considerable change for our neighbor to the north or to the west. The shed structure was solidly built by one in a long line of great carpenters and could not easily be moved, although it could have been placed in a conforming location back in the 80s when it was first erected. At that time, we had no neighbor to the rear. And I'd like to hand up for the board's consideration a copy of the tax map showing the building footprints in the area. Years after our structure was built, the neighbor next door carved out access to a landlocked piece and picked a location for the house, which is a little curious, although it's a beautiful property, but it put them right in the neighborhood of our shed. Needless to say, the shed is not an environmental issue with noise, vibrations, or odors. And although the existing condition was indeed self-created, we would respectfully request that that alone should not be reason for the board to deny our application. Thank you.
Thank you. Planning? Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Benz has a question.
What is the height of that shed garage?
You know, as I drove here today, I had a funny feeling somebody was going to ask me that question. I have the elevations, and I meant to look at them before I stood up here. I'm sorry I didn't do so.
The height of the shed with the plan submitted is 14 feet, 1.5 inches.
I'll accept Mr. Bongino's estimate. I thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't address the issue of the gravel being at the 0 point of the west property line when 1 foot is required. essentially the gravel has migrated slightly in that direction with the effects of weather. It's certainly not a visible condition from the street or from the neighboring properties, and we would respectfully submit that that is not a substantial impact on the neighborhood. Thank you.
Planning? Gentlemen? Thank you so much. Good evening. Was there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second.
It's regularly moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. Next case is case 16762, Paul and Rebecca Devlin, 39 Eagle Lane, Hauppauge. Location, southwest corner of Eagle Lane and Cardinal Lane, Hauppauge. Property zone R10. Request variance to reduce the minimum front yard setback from 40 feet to 8 for proposed 6-foot fence on Cardinal Lane. And your name, please?
My name is Paul Devlin. I am the applicant.
You what?
I am the applicant.
Yes. And your address? Paul?
39 Eagle Lane in Hauppauge, New York.
Okay. Why don't you lift that mic a little bit?
Is that better?
You better, thank you.
All right.
All right, raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Want to tell us why you're here, please?
Yes, good evening, Madam Chairwoman and the members of the board. Essentially, I live on a corner property, and the application is for a fence in a front yard, but as a practical matter, it's my side yard. And as to the first issue to be addressed, is it an undesirable change that would change the character of a neighborhood? I submit that it's not, because it's a completely residential neighborhood, and several of houses that are on corners in that neighborhood already have substantially similar fences, and in fact, very few don't have a fence. So, in my opinion, it looks awkward without a fence that you can see right through the yard there, especially when we're outside on the patio and so forth, as you can see in the pictures there. As to the second category, whether the benefit could be sought in some other way, I have a 2.5-year-old daughter who likes to play in the yard, and other than putting up a fence, there's really no way to sit and relax and have her play freely without the danger of her running out into the street on the side yard there. So the third category, I don't believe the request is substantial because, as I said, the character of the neighborhood already encompasses several fences on such corner properties. With respect to the adverse effect on the physical environment, I don't believe a fence would have any type of environmental hazard effect. And finally, whether or not this was self-created, it was not. We bought the house recently, within a few months, and at the time it did not have a fence.
Okay. Just let me tell you, usually we do not grant an 8-foot setback. However, we do visit the sites, and it seems to me that your neighbor does not, their driveway is not next to your fence, so your fence does not block their vision as far as coming out of their driveway.
Correct.
Okay. Planning?
And I just would like to add that the neighbor who is behind us has a fence that comes out to the same distance, so essentially it would be running on the same line as his fence.
Yeah. I don't know if they have, a variance or not.
I understand.
So,
Just speaking to the character of the neighborhood and the aesthetic results.
Okay.
I'm just sort of concerned about the incremental effect of granting fences in front yards. Not in this case, and any more so than most cases, but I think that the desirability of the town goes down a little bit if there are a lot of tall fences in front yards. So I would recommend that the board grant the minimum relief necessary and perhaps mitigate the visual impact by, if you grant it, by requiring plant materials to soften the effect of it.
I appreciate that, and I would be more than happy to put into place any type of planting or trees that would be required. And as I said, I don't know how much value it has to you, but the neighbor directly behind us and several other corner properties already have this type of fence, and it would mean a lot to my family if we could have the privacy of having that fence and still have the benefit of the large yard. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Gentlemen, anything else?
No question.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second?
It's really moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Next case is case 16763. Ronald, is it Utica? Ustica. 152 Old Willets Path, Smithtown. Location, west side of Old Willets Path, south of Woodlawn Lane, Smithtown. Property zone R43. Request variance to reduce the side yard setback from 24 feet to 18, and total side yards from 60 to 43, 49 existing, for a proposed 1,850 square foot second floor addition. Reduce the front yard setback from 60 feet to 54 for a proposed 60 square foot balcony. Reduce the front yard setback from 60 feet to 0 for an existing 5-foot fence. Reduce the front yard setback from 60 feet to 35 for an existing 6-foot fence. Reduce the side yard setback for paving from 1 to 0. Increase the maximum paving in side yard from 25% to 43%. Are we okay? Okay, thank you. Now, may I have your name, please?
Craig Mitchell, 35 Roundabout Road
Okay.
in Smithtown.
And you have a power of attorney?
I do.
Will you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You want to tell us why you're here, please?
Yeah, my client has a proposed permit, and I'm the contractor involved in the permit. He's doing two different things that require a setback. He's got a 60-foot allowed front setback in the front. 57 is what it calls for in a plan. The only reason for the 3-foot difference is a front elevation, just to add character to the house. It's 3 foot in order to get a little bump out, like I said, add character. The side setback, in order to make this project worthwhile for the client, he wants to do a larger garage. So that's going from a 24-foot to an 18-foot side setback. He's got a large property, just narrow. So there's no other way to make the existing garage any bigger without doing that. As far as the rest of these things, these are all existing conditions. Reduced distance to lot line from 1 foot to 0 feet. That courtyard effect that's created because of his small side setback into his rear property. From day one, he had blacktop the way he bought the house was purchased with this. And 25% to 43% square footage of maximum paving is also existing, again, because of that courtyard effect. His house is an L shape, and it's really difficult to get any parking otherwise. You can't turn a car inside the property otherwise. As far as fencing, from 60 feet to 0 feet, a 5-foot fence. He filed for a variance, I found out 6 years ago. It was approved and never followed up on it. I don't know if that matters today, but it's a nice black estate fence. It's got automatic openers on it. He has horses. His horses have gotten out of the corral. Horses run out into Old Willets and have perished also, so that's a concern. That's why he liked that fence. And then the other 60 foot to 35 is a side setback on the existing fence also.
Just to let you know, just because something is existing, that doesn't mean this board will approve or, you
understand,
understand
yeah,
that.
I understand.
Okay, now, the other thing is this is an estate fence, am I
Yes.
correct?
Yep.
Because we were there. I don't know how the other members of the board feel, but we may condition it that it has to stay as an estate fence.
Yeah, there'll be no changes to the fence.
Okay, all right. Like I said, I don't know how the other members feel, but
Okay.
that might be a condition.
It's an attractive fence, I think.
Okay.
Okay?
Planning?
Two comments, Madam Chair. I think from a town planning standpoint, most of the variances are not significant, but I think you might be interested to know about two. One is the cumulative effect of paving the town over one lot at a time may undermine future generations with respect to the quality and quantity of groundwater. I don't know if the board knows it, but the quality of groundwater in Suffolk County is still declining even after over 30 years of rigorous controls by the health department on population density. One of the two main causes for pollution, at least according to presentations that I've attended, have to do with stormwater runoff from paved surfaces. Accordingly, we would recommend that the board grant the minimum relief necessary here. The second matter has to do with the fence. While it might be my opinion that an estate fence is attractive, I'm just concerned about I don't know how else to phrase it, but to basically undermine the will of the town board. If they set a limit of 4 feet on the maximum height in the front yard, one would imagine that to deviate from that, there should be a legitimate reason where the benefit to the applicant outweighs the detriment to the public health and safety. And I'm sorry, and welfare.
Okay, thank you.
As far as the asphalt goes, long-term plan on the entire courtyard area is still yet to be determined. I'm hoping we could do some more landscaping in there, take away some of that square footage, but it's just a tight area. When you drive in his driveway, his entrance is to the left. It's an L-shaped house, like I was saying. His entrance is to the left. Garage is opposing as you pull in. It's just really difficult to make less pavement there and still be able to drive around that little courtyard area. But either way, we're going to do something else aesthetically and most likely some new plantings also.
Could I ask a question, Madam Chair?
Sure.
The plan is very unclear to me. It doesn't carry much detail, but it appears that on the side of the house, the blacktop widens into like a semicircle.
Yeah.
But then as it goes further back, it tapers, widens, widens again. Is all of that pavement needed?
I believe some of that's gravel. I don't think that's all blacktop.
Okay. The plan just says bituminous pavement, and it doesn't indicate where the pavement ends.
Okay. That's back near the stables, so I'm sure they wouldn't oppose. Does gravel help the situation as opposed to a hard pavement?
I think from a stormwater runoff standpoint, of course. You know,
Yeah.
Basically, 95% of stormwater runs off of blacktop, 98%, something like that.
Right.
And in gravel, it's about half.
I'm sure they wouldn't mind doing that. You know, either way, all that landscaping, pavement, it's all going to get redone with the renovation as well.
Mr. O'Brien just gave me a better version
Okay.
of your drawings. There are
Good.
two drawings. One is vague, and the other one's clear.
Okay,
So,
good.
okay, thanks.
That might have been the old one.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, any questions? Go ahead.
Aside from the fact that the estate fence is already there, and aside from the fact that it's nice, can you give us any reason why it's important to have a 5-foot fence as opposed to a 4-foot fence?
I think an estate fence looks stable, but it's really not. It's just still made out of aluminum. I think their concern is the horses. You know, Old Willits is a crazy road, busy road. And right across the street, a horse passed away. There's an entrance right into Blydenburg Park. A horse got out of the corral, jumped the 4-foot fence, and they're on Old Willits all of a sudden.
You don't think their horses that they have now could jump a 5-foot fence?
I don't think so, no.
Okay.
They're
Well, that's what I'm,
Yeah.
that's what I'm asking.
No,
Okay.
I don't think so.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
thank you.
Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second.
William moves the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Okay. Next case is case 16764, Biobotanica, 75 Commerce Drive, Hauppauge. Location, south side of Commerce Drive, east of Moreland Road, Hauppauge, property zone LI. Request variance to increase the maximum floor area from 42% to 47%. Reduce the minimum parking from 160 spaces to 141 spaces. Proposed 20,024 square foot second-story warehouse addition.
Good evening, Madam Chairwoman, members of the board. My name is Thomas Walsh, Joseph T. Matthews, Architects, 3460 Veterans Memorial Highway.
Do you have a power of attorney?
I have the Chief Operating Officer of Biobotanica with me.
Okay. All right, then I need him first.
Okay?
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
May I have your name, please?
Yes, Mark Gaeta, G-A-E-T-A,
All right, and your address, please?
6 Susan Drive, Fort Salonga, New York.
Okay. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right. Would you like this gentleman to speak for you?
Yes, we would. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Gator might be back later on.
Okay.
As described,
Let
the
me
application.
go, give me your name again, your
Okay.
address, and I swear you in.
Certainly. It's Thomas Walsh, Joseph T. Matthews, Architects, 3460-6, Veterans Memorial Highway, Bohemia.
Okay. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
As described, I just need to clarify something at the offset. In terms of the square footage, the application before the board is to create a 10,012 square foot second floor within a previously approved addition to the building. So we're not seeking, the one-story addition was as of right, and the second floor is going inside of that volume. So essentially, the second floor is the reason that we're here for the floor area and the parking.
Okay.
The single floor already has a planning board approval since March of 2011. So, the property at 85 Commerce Drive currently is occupied by Biobotanica's subsidiary of Nature's Resource. And as I described, we've created a one-story addition several years back, and after reevaluating, they opted, prior to beginning construction, to come to the board to see if whether or not we can actually build a second floor within that building. We don't think that, based on the fact that the volume is actually going within the proposed building already, that it is substantial, be non-detrimental to the neighborhood. It's at the Hauppauge Industrial Park, and it hasn't been self-created. We're just seeking to better establish, shall we say, the addition prior to full permitting.
Okay. Planning?
Madam Chair, if I may, just to outline the pros and cons on this. On the negative side, not having enough parking could mean that either difficulty for fire or emergency access getting to the building if cars are parked in the parking lot. And I would encourage you to ask the applicant to address that. On the positive side, if the application's granted, I presume you're helping keep a business in town improve tax ratables and improve employment in town.
Okay. They're missing 19 spaces.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
First, in regards to fire equipment circulation, during the course of the site plan review for the original addition, keeping in mind that this is going inside of that addition,
Right.
The site plan was revised at the request of the fire marshal's office as part of the site plan review prior to issuance of that site plan. So essentially, it's still the same circulation from previously.
Go ahead.
That actually wasn't what I meant. Is would the shortage of parking be real in terms of your client? Will they actually, do they need all the spaces that the ordinance requires? That's really the essence of it.
The short answer to that is that we're not going to be adding additional people in that section. The second story of the building will actually be used to stage materials for our packaging area, which will be located underneath. So we're not going to be adding additional cars and manpower. Our business is growing, but we're going to be doing it by adding shifts. So there'll be additional people will be sharing the parking spots, if you will, because they're going to overlap on night shifts versus day shifts. So the impact on additional parking will be negligible, if at all.
Thank you.
How's your current parking on the existing 60,000 square feet?
We're working within that fine. And when we add this section, we'll be adding more parking spaces than we'll be adding people within that additional building.
Thank you.
Any other questions, gentlemen?
No question.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second.
It's regularly moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Next case is case 16765, Susan Riedman, 58 Avenue A, Kings Park. Location, southwest corner of Avenue A and Short Street, Kings Park. Property zone R10. Request variance reduce the minimum front yard setback from 40 feet to 19 existing, for an existing 122 square foot deck.
Madam Chairwoman and members of the board.
My
name
go ahead.
is Susan Elizabeth Ryman. I live at 58 Avenue A.
Okay, good. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
10 years ago, when we moved in, we had a nice little brick walk into our second entrance into the house. There's two doors. One's on Short Street. It's the side of our house. And the bricks were becoming loose and broken, and what we decided to do was put a new entrance to the house, and we built a deck, entrance with a little deck on it. So it encompasses 122 square feet, and it's our entrance into our home. So we think it's fine, so I'm going to answer the questions now. Whether an undesirable change was produced, I don't think so. No, I know not that it hasn't been. Whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some other method, because I think we wanted more of an entrance into the house than worrying about building a large deck. I think the variance is substantial. Whether, not substantial, I'm sorry, yeah. Whether proposed variance will have an adverse effect on the impact of the physical environment, no. And whether the alleged difficulty was self-created, I guess yes, because I didn't seek out the variance when we had the contractor come in to do this, so.
Let me ask you, I see a ramp. Is that a handicap ramp?
That's for my dog who just passed away, so it's not there anymore. We had a
Oh.
little dachshund who had back problems, so he's not with us anymore.
Okay,
So that's no longer there.
all right. Planning?
She says, uh-oh, no. Just as an aside, when I was a kid, there was an oil business at that property with 2 oil trucks, so it's nice to see that it's residential today.
Oh,
Thank you. Gentlemen, anything else?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much.
thank you.
Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Come up, please. Okay, may I have your name, please?
Maureen Allen,
And your address, Maureen?
64 Avenue A, Kings Park.
Okay, raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Just a comment to Mr. Flynn. I believe the property that you're thinking of is the Nylon Home, which is on the corner of Avenue B and Short Street.
afraid you'd
That
say
had the
that.
fueled.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. My residence is 64 Avenue A in Kings Park. I'm on the corner of Avenue A and Short Street. And the Ryman's home is Avenue A and Short Street. So my kitchen door faces the Ryman kitchen door where the deck is. And I've
Just
been
address
living
this
in,
board, yeah.
yeah, I've been living in this, my home. This is the home I was raised in. And this deck has added a touch of beauty and charm to their home. And it's a pleasant sight, which I see many times daily. So I would like to make that comment.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second?
Really moved to second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Next case is case 16766, Renee Baldy, 2 River Crescent, Comac. Location, northwest corner of River Crescent and Donna Lane, Comac. Property zone R10. Request variance to reduce the minimum front yard setback from 40 feet to 35 for proposed 147 square foot porch, River Crescent. Reduce the minimum front yard setback from 40 feet to 16 for a 6-foot fence on Donna Lane. Reduce the minimum front yard setback from 40 feet to 24 for a pool equipment structure. Reduce the minimum front yard setback from 40 feet to 33 for an in-ground pool. And your name, please?
It's Renee Baldy, and it's 2 Rita Crescent, Comac, New York.
Okay. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay. Would you like this gentleman to speak for you?
In a second.
In a second. Well, let me swear. Let me swear you in so that you can speak. Let me have your name, please.
Robert Miller, and 7 Norton Drive in Smithtown. I'm her architect.
Spell your last name.
Miller.
Okay. Raise your right hand, please.
Sorry.
Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So whoever would like to go first?
I'm up.
Okay, good.
Okay. The reason I'm here is July 27th last year, my home was destroyed in a fire. And when we were going for building permits and things like that through the town, it was brought to my attention that there are C of Os for the pool, but not variances, and all the paperwork should be cleared up on the fence, the pool. They're talking about a pool structure.
The fence enclosure.
It goes around a pool filter. It's about this high, and the fence. I've been in that house prior to the fire for about 14 years. As of last week, we did rebuild the house. I lived there with my 2 children. And for the porch, that is a new addition to my house. And it's really for, to make it look a little bit nicer and ease to get into the house if it's raining with 2 children and fencing equipment. The fence has always been there, the pool's always been there, and I see that there was paperwork from the 60s, that there was some notation to the pool and the fence and all that, and that's why he's going to jump in. But it's always been there for the 14 years that I've been there, and I don't have any paperwork. As I said, the house was, and paperwork was destroyed in the fire. At this point, I'm turning it over.
Okay.
Good evening, Madam Chairwoman and members of the board. She actually did a pretty good job, so I don't really know how much more I have to say. But what I can tell you in reference to the existing pool equipment and pool fence and the pool itself is that that was unbeknownst to us and found out at the time that we were submitting an application for to the board for the front covered porch. That has been, those three items have been CO'd since March 3rd, 1966, over 40 years. I'm not even quite sure that the zoning back then didn't allow this or not. I don't have access to that information. So this was brought to our attention when we submitted the application. Other than that, Ms. Baldy proposes to construct the 29.5-foot by 6-foot front cover porch on the easterly side of the house facing Rita Crescent. This would encroach upon the front yard setback, the required front yard setback, by about a little over 4 feet. And this porch would allow for a more aesthetically pleasing exterior for her and her neighbors. As a professional, I don't think that there would be any negative impact at all with that added to the house.
I see this is a temp dwelling. Is that removed?
Yeah, that's gone. That was their trailer that they were living in during the reconstruction from the fire.
Planning?
I would just ask the board to take into account in this situation the strange shape of the property. The person might have alternatives that don't need a variance if the property were more normally shaped. But I guess in 1962, when the planning board approved the subdivision, they created a lot here that's shaped like a shield, for lack of a better term. And the angling back of Donna Lane relative to Rita Crescent is really creating problems, and how they could use the property in a manner similar to other people in the neighborhood.
Okay. Thank you. Gentlemen, any questions?
No question.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second?
Ready, moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Next case, case 16767 Hess Corporation, has been adjourned to October 9th. Next case is case 16768 Thomas A. Bolus, 142 South Hillside Avenue, Wisconsin. Location, south side of South Hillside Avenue, north of Browns Road, Wisconsin. Property zone R10. Request variance to permit accessory structure in side yard and reduce the minimum side yard setback from 12 feet to 4 for an existing 483 square foot detached garage. And your name, please?
My name is Thomas Ballas.
And your address, Thomas?
142 South Hillside Avenue, Nesconset, New York.
Okay. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
The property was originally purchased by my grandfather in the 50s, and he bought a 2-acre lot from Nesconset Farms. During that time, he built a house, and then later on in 1963, he built this detached garage on the 2-acre plot. 1993, we realized it wasn't CO'd, so my father got a CO. In 2009, my father passed away, and he left the property to myself and my sister. So the two lots were divided through the county into 5.2 and 5.1. And at that time, The survey reviewed that the new lot line that was dividing the two properties made that detached garage too close. So it's supposed to be 12 feet, and it's it's actually 5 feet. So the structure does not create an undesirable or produce a character change to the neighborhood, because it's been around pretty much, well, before the neighborhood was there. So there really is no change. There is no real other opportunity besides a variance, because to move the garage is very difficult. The variance is not substantial. There'll still be enough area to get around the garage on my property, so that's not really causing any kind of issue. There is no environmental conditions or any concerns with that. And the difficulty was not created by myself. It was created, unfortunately, by my grandfather in 1963.
Okay. Dave, it's 4 feet. Is there going to be a problem as far as the fire
Well,
department, or?
that's really a better question for the building department. But if I could address a related aspect, I don't think this is a long-term planning problem because of the way in which the situation arose, where somebody had 2 lots side by side, built a garage, and owned both as though it was one parcel. Much, much bigger than the zoning, like 8 times bigger than the minimum the zoning required, and built a garage toward the middle of his property. And then denying this, like if he had done it properly, the other property, this became in violation as soon as the other property was sold off. You follow what I mean?
Okay.
When you own both properties, it's in effect merged. I mean, not merged from a lot area standpoint, but from a setback standpoint. So they complied with the zoning until the 2 lots split ownership. And, I don't think it's realistic to think of this the way that a normal subdivision is, where you have, this would have been probably split up into about 5 quarter-acre lots with a cul-de-sac. That's much more typical. So I would tend to think that if the board granted this, it's not really setting a precedent.
Okay.
And with respect to the fire, though, I think
Yeah.
John Bongino would be better at.
Why, I mean, that lot line was split by?
Someone owned 2 old lots.
Yeah, but I mean, as the split, why couldn't they have changed the property line, I guess? I'm asking.
If someone splits along an existing filed map lot line, which is what happened here, ordinarily no municipal approvals are required. The only reason that one should have been required here is because the garage was too close to the common lot line. But normally no approval is required. If you live, or if the properties are in a filed map and you want to split the lot line, or you want to split the lots in a manner that's not along the old line, then a certain kind of approval is required, and it's called an amendment of filed map lot lines.
Right.
Not that it's impossible to get. It's a little more burdensome, and there are no standards in the subdivision regulations regarding whether the planning board should approve or deny these amendments, so it might be speculative as to whether or not you'd get approval.
Okay.
Regarding the fire-rated issue, what we would need to do, the garage was CO'd in February of 1993. If the board did grant the variance, what we would do is go back to the codes of 19 years ago and see if that wall would have been required to be rated.
Okay. Thank you so much. Any other questions, gentlemen? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Really moved in second. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Next case is Next case is 16769, Vincent and Christine Daddio, 70 Laurel Drive, Smithtown location, west side of Laurel Drive, south of Shirley Court, Smithtown. Property zone R21. Request variance to reduce the minimum front yards from 50 feet to 33. Reduce the minimum side yard from 16 to 14 for an approximate 833 square foot garage addition, an approximate 638 square foot second story addition, increase the maximum permitted floor area of a lot from 25% to 30. And your name, please?
Vincent Daddio,
And your address?
70 Laurel Drive, Smithtown, New York.
Okay. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Are you going to speak? I'm not sure. So let me swear you in case you'd like to.
Christine Daddio,
And your address?
70 Laurel Drive, Smithtown, New York.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. Obviously, we're here for the setback variances and so on and so forth. I'd say it's basically just the garage that's the issue. The house itself is set back well beyond the 50 feet that's required, and same with the side also. And as far as this actual square footage, a lot of the space on the second floor is really just for storage. It's not being finished. It's just that that's the square footage of the house itself to begin with. So it just made sense to, go up that same size, more or less. We don't believe it's an undesirable change or will produce anything detrimental to the character of the neighborhood. It's a good-looking home. It's, it's similar to the homes that are in the area, that's for certain. I don't know whether the benefits sought for that could be achieved. I don't see how it could be achieved in any other manner. We need additional space. Need additional garage space and storage. I don't think the variance is really substantial, as we're only asking for 2 feet for a side variance. And again, the garage is 19 feet, but again, it's only the garage part, which is a small part of the actual addition. I don't think it'll have an adverse effect on the impact for environmental conditions. Again, the roof line isn't really getting that much bigger, so there won't be that much more additional runoff, so on and so forth, from the structure as it is right now, and the alleged difficulty was not self-created.
Lenny?
No comments, thank you.
Gentlemen? Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here who would like to be heard on this application? Hearing none, I'll entertain the motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second.
Israeli moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Next case is case 16770, which has been adjourned to October 9th. The next case is case 16771, J.P. Morgan Chase. Location is southwest corner of Smithtown Bypass and Terry Road. Property zone NB. Request variance to increase the number of ground signs from maximum of 1 to 9. Increase the maximum area of ground signs from 32 square feet to 65 square feet, total of 9 ground signs. Increase the maximum area of a ground sign, sign 1, from 32 square feet to 43 square feet. Increase the number of wall signs from a maximum of 1 to 8. Permit 4 wall signs not to face a public street. Increase the maximum height of 5 wall signs from 15 feet to 18.
Good evening, Mrs. Chairwoman, members of the board. Carl Paparola, attorney for the applicant, J.P. Morgan Chase. I'm joined by Ms. Sarah Glenn, an assistant vice president with Chase. He traveled in from Chicago to be with us tonight. This application's in connection with 705 Smithtown Bypass, Smithtown, New York. It's zoned NB. The applicant respectfully seeks approval on 6 variances in connection with its exterior sign plan, which is essential for Chase's ability to garner visibility within the community and ensure the orderly and safe flow of traffic for customers once entering the site. The first request is increasing the number of ground signs from 1 to 9. Can you hear me with this? You can. Increasing the number of ground signs from 1 sign to 9 signs. We respectfully submit to the board that 8 of these 9 ground signs are merely directional wayfinding signs. They really don't serve any advertising purposes. They merely indicate where the ATMs are, entrance, exit, etc. The second request, we are increasing the maximum area of the ground signs from 32 square feet to 65 square feet. These signs, as they're proposed, are rather small and certainly reasonably sized for the intended purpose. If our concern is we have a practical difficulty because if we had to reduce the signs, it may undermine the purpose of the signs and may be too small, the lettering, etc. The third request is we are seeking permission to increase the maximum area of the ground sign, the pylon sign. This is the main identification sign for Smithtown Bypass. I have a drawing if you need one. But we wanted to bring out to the board, show the board that the entire freestanding sign does not illuminate. It is merely the 1'2" letters. They are push-through copy. I understand the board or the buildings department is required to take a dimension of the whole structure, but I wanted to point to the board that the entire sign does not illuminate. We feel that is reasonably sized and appropriate for the site and will not alter the character of the community. The fourth request, we are seeking permission to increase the number of wall signs from 1 sign to 8 signs. I would like to submit to the board that 3 of these 8 signs are directional and wayfinding signs, specifically the lane designations for the drive-up, bank tellers, etc., and really do not serve any advertising purposes. Mrs. Chairwoman, I understand not for purposes of demonstrating any entitlement, but just to show that the nature of the surrounding area is in sync with the application. I respectfully submit diagonal is a Walgreens location. The Walgreens, presumably the locations I gave you, these signs are legal, but the Walgreens is located at 712 Smithtown Bypass, and Famous Dave's is located at 716 Smithtown Bypass, within a 1-mile radius of the subject site. So that buttresses our position that these signs will not change the character or charm of the community. The fifth request that we seek before the board is allowing a wall sign not to face a public street. Again, I use Walgreens and Famous Dave's as proof that there will not be an undesirable change in the community. Both of these sites, namely Walgreens on the east and north elevation, do not face a public street, and Famous Dave on the east and west elevation do not face a public street. The sixth and final request, we are respectfully requesting permission to increase the maximum height of a wall sign from 15 feet to 18 feet. The applicant faces a practical difficulty of complying with this requirement given the layout of the building and the design of the building. If you look at the architectural prints, it would be very difficult, impossible, to put the signs below 15 feet. And again, I use Walgreens as another example that there will not be an undesirable change in the area. I did not measure Walgreens, but to any lay or casual observation, they are in excess of 15 feet. Members of the board, if this application is granted, they will not have an adverse effect on the environment. The benefits to the applicant are not outweighed to any detriment to adjacent property owners, will not alter the character or charm of the community.
Can I have that other?
In light of the surrounding area, we believe this to be a modest application. There are no other reasonable alternatives for the applicant to seek other than the variances at bar. Arguably, this application is self-created, but we understand that that is not fatal to the application. Unless the board has any questions, that concludes our presentation.
Planning?
Madam Chair, in your packets tonight are the Planning Department's recommendation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have on it.
All right.
Well, I have a question.
Yes.
I'm not clear from what I'm seeing, and maybe I passed on some of the stuff that I should be looking at, but I'm not clear exactly where each of these 9 ground signs are on this.
Can I approach?
Sure.
Take this first. These are the directionals. Oh, I'm sorry, these are all duplicates, but here you go. If you see it in the site plan here, they're all numbered.
Yeah,
So for example, the corresponding, you would have 19 and 20. 19 and 20.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of blue circles. And,
I'm sorry, here would be 20. Here would be 19. These are wayfinding ground signs indicating do not enter, reserve, handicap parking, etc. Similar to what Walgreens has. Walgreens has a good example because they have lane designations for the pharmacy as well, and they also have very similar signs to the ones being proposed to the board.
Right, I'm just not sure. There's a lot of blue circles here,
Okay.
and I'm not sure which ones are the ground signs.
Okay. Well, here you have. This is our main ground sign. Number 1. That's this. What other drawings do you have? And I'll point them out to you, so I don't get confused with my drawings.
Do you have any others other than that show the locations of the ground signs?
Yeah, if you want to jump in, it's just a matter of showing them. Sarah, Miss Glenn's going to help me out from Chase. Hi there.
Thank you.
Really,
Swear in.
yes, I need
Okay.
to swear you in, and really you really shouldn't be at the podium. Yeah.
The video?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Let me swear her in first. May I have your name, please?
It's Sarah Glenn. Sarah Glenn.
Spell your last name.
It's Glenn.
Okay, and your address.
It's 1218 West Carmen, Chicago, Illinois.
Okay. Raise your right hand, please. You swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay.
May I?
I guess you're going to have to, is that we work all right? Okay, go ahead.
So this is a legend here on the side that coordinates with the numbers that we're showing on the site plan. And they're unfortunately in code, but you'll see directional here. Directional, directional, directional. So those are signs 12 through 16, 12, 13, 14.
So if I look on this legend, directional, 12, 13, 14, 15, that's 4.
9, 10, 11, 12.
Now I'm looking for the other 5.
Yep, regulatory. Regulatory, regulatory, regulatory. And then,
That's 9, right?
Right.
So it's 12, 13, 14, 15, 19, 20, 21, and 22.
that's correct.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. All right, a couple of things I'm going to say. First of all, the logos over each window, to me, they're not necessary at all. I mean, there's no reason to have all these logos. This is really sign pollution as far as I'm concerned.
Well, it's in keeping with their national brand.
I know. All the corporations say that. And I'm sure that they don't have, at every building, they don't have all these logo signs on top of every window. That's my feeling on that. And some of these directional drive-through signs, they're not needed. I mean, you have so many signs here.
Well, so again, 2 of those are do not enter signs, and that's, obviously just the safety of our customers not entering the drive-through from the wrong direction. 2 of those are ADA handicap signs, so that leaves 4 that are ground directional signs. We can obviously take another look at that and make sure that those are well suited to the property. We just try not to skimp on those directionals. Again, they're not for branding purposes. They are for getting our customers in and out of the site as safely as possible.
Gentlemen, anything?
No, it's a little confusing.
Yeah.
All of the directional signs that you have that seem somewhat repetitive around the site, are any of them, it just seems like they're kind of all scattered all around. Are there ones that are more important than the other ones to avoid having?
Yeah, I mean, we're more than willing to work with planning on trimming those down. I mean, if you guys would prefer, 3 instead of 4 or 2 instead of 4, we're happy to work with planning to make sure that planning and building are all on the same page with what will get us the best routing.
I mean, to me, it just would seem confusing if people go in and they see
You
7
would be
different signs.
surprised.
It's kind of confusing.
Yeah.
Looking at it from here, and I can see each one of them. I can't imagine pulling into the parking lot and seeing 5 or 6 different signs.
Yeah, again, we're more than willing. We err on the side of caution, just from experience. You would be surprised what customers do and do not see.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I think what planning's recommendation, just to try to summarize it, it's recommending approval of all of the awnings, provided that they don't have copy on them. It's in essence saying that all of the regulatory signs really shouldn't need variances, and we're recommending approval. I mean, if there's a handicap sign, someone shouldn't need a variance for a handicap sign. But with respect to the more significant signs, I didn't prepare the memo, but I'm looking through it. To increase the number of ground signs, we're recommending 3. The main one plus 2 of the directionals. The area of the ground signs, I'm not sure why, I'd have to ask, but we're recommending 51 square feet. The area of the main ground sign, we're recommending approval. The increasing the number of wall signs from 1 to 8, we're recommending approval of 5 of the signs. For the ones not facing a public street, we're recommending approval of 3 of the 4. For the increasing the wall sign height, we're recommending approval of 2 of them, and I think that's because the other 2, I think, were redundant. In essence, the recommendation is somewhat complicated because the application is somewhat complicated. Doing the best we could, we tried to strike a balance between preventing sign pollution and trying to make sure that Chase has a successful business here in town. I think we've done that.
Have you had an opportunity to look at planning's advisory report?
No, I have not received a copy.
You usually do that.
It's a recommendation, it's not a planning advisory.
Oh. Looks like one.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
No.
No question.
I'm sorry, just a question on the wall signs. You were recommending approval on 3 of the
3.
4?
3.
3. Would they be the main signs?
It's 2 of the main and 2 others. The recommending approval on the north and east ID signs. I could understand Chase might want the other one more because of eastbound traffic on 347. That presumably is like a main source of customers. But just to us to have 3 seemed like a lot. I understand your side of the story.
I've just, in light of the surrounding area, I'm just trying to reconcile. I mean, Walgreens has 10 signs across the street.
Yeah.
Famous Dave's has 3 signs across the street. I'm trying to understand the.
The rationale is on the other side of Terry Road, on both sides of 347 are zoned business or commercial. This is the end on the western part, and there are folks that live near Chase, and especially as you look west, it's much more residential in character. So our thinking, flawed or good, I'm not sure which it is, but the idea is that Chase is on the cusp between a residential district and a business district. So, I mean, I understand from Chase's standpoint that, there's no question a business would want more, and typically residents want fewer, and planning was trying to do the best we could to come up with a middle ground.
Just one question. Being that you're approving two, or recommending approval of 2 of the 3 wall signs, the main signs, is it possible to have the east elevation approved? And
It's up to the board. I mean,
Okay.
I mean, certainly we're open, but what good does that do?
it just,
They
it's
vote.
it's more advantageous for the
Is
applicant
the
to
east
have the east.
elevation more important than the west?
I mean, in my opinion, with the position of the pylon sign that we're showing on the property,
Right.
it seems to me that we're kind of leaving, if we take the sign off the east elevation, we're kind of leaving that whole side of the property high and dry of signage.
Right.
So,
So
from
essentially
Terry,
it
I
would
don't
be
think you would
taking-
know that it was a Chase branch.
Essentially would be saying that 4 is less important than 3.
I'm saying 4 is more important than 3.
Oh,
Four.
4 is the one that, okay, I got
Number
it. So
four
4,
is-
the
yeah,
sign
they
that you would
want
see
number
from
4.
from Terry Road is more important than the one you would see from your own parking
I mean,
lot.
obviously, I
Right.
think they're both important, but yes, if I had to
think if they're
choose.
in your parking lot, they probably know you're there.
If they're in my parking lot, I hope they know they're there. But again, you'd be surprised.
Okay. Anything else? Thank you. Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? You can snap it right in. Perfect, thank you. May I have your name, please?
Evening, Madam. Peter Shurka, 48 William Street, Smithtown, New York.
Okay, spell your last name.
Sciurca.
Okay, raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay. Before I forget, with regard to the gentleman's point about the character of the neighborhood, I respectfully disagree with him on the surrounding nature of the Walgreens and Famous Dave's. As the gentleman from planning spoke, I live off of corner of Catherine and William, just to the south of the Chase. And if I'm not mistaken, they've already pushed past the neighborhood business boundary into the residential boundary for their parking on an angle, so that the tree line has been thinned such that I now have a great view through the trees of the soon-to-be building and the wall sign that on that side of the building facing the west. The other businesses don't have residences directly behind them or on the sides that don't face the street. So with regard to that sign, I'm vehemently opposed to that Chase illuminated identifying sign that would face the west. And you wouldn't really see it coming eastbound on 347 anyway because of the wooded lot and the turn that 347 makes. So the ground sign, I don't really know the terms for it. Whatever sign is going to be out on the corner to identify Chase would be the one that people would see anyway as they're heading eastbound. With regard to any west-facing signs, now that we have, myself and my neighbors have a great view of the building and the parking lot from our living rooms and kitchens, we would be opposed to any illuminated signs that face the western direction, whether it be that wall sign that we talked about or any illuminated drive-through signs, which I've seen the plans, but I'm not really clear as to what's illuminated and what's not. But I believe that there's just one drive-through and one ATM, so either the bank is open or it's not, and the ATM is always there. So whether there's a red and green lighted sign, open, closed, I don't know, but any signs on the walls that would be illuminated facing the west in our homes would be detrimental to our neighborhood. With regard to increased area and height, we'd be opposed to that as well, because obviously it's going to be much more visible. A lot of the canopy on the south end of the property, I watched them take it all down today. It used to be probably over 100 feet high. Now it's greatly reduced and much thinned out. I think whatever the requirements are, restrictions are, I would be in favor of leaving those alone. And then with regard to signage again, you had previously approved the curb cut on Catherine Avenue, and in some of the requirements, it said that they had to angle it toward Terry Road to encourage traffic to make a left out of that curb cut. I would ask respectfully that you require some significant signage restricting or requiring people to make a left turn out of that curb cut so as not to make William Street a bypass for Terry Road when the traffic is backed up to the south. My greatest concern is that at high traffic times on Terry Road heading northbound traffic, people are going to cut through Annette, Elizabeth, Florence, and then up William Street, and then down Catherine Avenue into the bank parking lot, and vice versa on the exit. So that curb cut has created what I would consider a logjam to begin with. Exiting traffic, making a left from the Chase is going to face directly into traffic, making a right onto Catherine from Terry Road, or a left onto Catherine from Terry Road. Not to mention the parking from the Women's Health Clinic across the street. But since that's been approved, I would like the board to do whatever it can to keep the traffic from coming through the residential neighborhood. I mean, we may wind up having to put stop signs on every corner if it gets out of control, but that's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. You want to come back? Wait, let me see. Is there anyone else? No. Okay, come on back then.
Just three responses to Mr. Shorer's testimony. Firstly, I believe we're on the same page with the western elevation. We would obviously love that signage, but we certainly would like to accommodate the board's concerns. Secondly, as it relates to the lane designations, I believe other signs that he's concerned about over the lane, unfortunately, they are very small. They are very rationally sized for their purpose. They are a necessity for the applicant, just to make sure that cars understand which way to enter and exit the lane designations. Thirdly, as it relates to the curb cuts and ensuring the orderly flow of traffic, I'm not too familiar with that intersection, but I spoke with Ms. Clinton, and she said she's willing to work with the planning department to minimize any of the concerns of the gentleman. Outside of that, we have no other response.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. Anything else?
Just with regard to the, I guess, the drive-through ATM and teller signage, we had recommended in the conditions that it'll show that they be non-illuminated.
They be what?
Non-illuminated.
Okay.
I think
to answer the concern of the resident.
Yeah, if I may, the illumination is actually our way to direct customers in and out of our lanes. We have a drive-through lane as well as an ATM lane. The drive-through lane does close, and so without a red or green arrow, you know, we can't inform our customers that it's open, and unfortunately customers will just sit there and yell at the screen and want to know why nobody's helping them. And it also, for the same as the ATM, if our ATM's out of service, we have no way of informing our customers that. I can't stress how small these signs are. I mean, they're about that big, and the only part that illuminates is the text that says either ATM or drive-through. Again, you don't want our customers, you know, pulling into a lane thinking they're getting an ATM, but they get a teller and vice versa, and then just the arrow part. So there's the box of the sign is not illuminated. So it is, I can't tell you in terms of the functionality of our bank and our business, it is absolutely crucial to business. We get more complaints back to our team about directional signage than anything else.
Okay, thank you so much.
Madam
Thank you.
Chair, the
Yes.
board might want to allow a reasonable amount of illumination on the residential side of the property, but in return, maybe Chase would be willing to plant some evergreens in the line of sight so that the neighbors wouldn't be impacted, wouldn't see them. If that's possible?
I can make that I'm signage. I mean,
Oh.
I'm literally here representing signage. So I obviously can take that back to my real estate team. I assume that planning worked with them with the site plan, landscaping plan.
Sure.
And so I can bring up those concerns and ask that we take another look at that with our architects, but I can't stand here and promise something that I don't know that I can deliver.
I understand.
Okay. Thank you so much. All right. I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second?
It's readily moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. That concludes our hearings for tonight. Thank you so much.